Welcome to Private Club Radio, your weekly source for industry education, news and discussion. Broadcasting from Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Gabriel Aloisi.
It's not that often that you can get the head of the Professional Club Marketing Association along with the head of the National Club Association together. We've done that on this episode, and I think you're just going to love it. We're joined today by Rick Coyne, CEO of the PCMA, as well as Henry Wallmeyer of the National Club Association, the NCA. Henry's going to tell us a little bit about the upcoming conference in New York City this summer. So we're going to get some advanced details, get all the juicy tidbits out of him. And then when Rick comes on, we're going to discuss membership and marketing, where Rick sees our industry headed, what he is absolutely scared of, and what you can do better to start winning more members for your club. It's going to be pretty exciting. And I'm going to talk to Rick about our partnership, Club Mark Partners, and give you a little taste of something new that we've launched together. I'm fresh back from a conference in Orlando called PodFest. It's a gathering of the biggest geeks in the country and the world. I'm just kidding. It's a gathering of podcasters from all over the world. And in fact, it was one of the best conferences I've ever been to. Now, last night, if you're listening to this in real time, was the Oscar Awards. And during PodFest, they came up with something they call the Pazzies, which is the equivalent of the Oscars for podcasters, except it's more like the Raspberries, where the awards are kind of tongue-in-cheek. And I actually won an award. I picked up some hardware at the Pazzies, and just wanted to let you guys know about it, my loyal listeners here. So it's a, how do I describe this? It's a blooper award. I won for having the best blooper in a podcast. And there are probably some hardcore listeners that have heard what happened on this show, but probably a lot of you do not. So what happened was, it was 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was super tired, just got done finishing the show. And usually I listen to the show before I post it live for the world to hear. But this time I was just a little bit too tired, and I decided, I'm just gonna post it up there. Well, I'm driving home from work later in the afternoon, and I hear what the heck I did. I'm actually going to play this clip for you. You're going to get a kick out of this. La 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 la. Woo! Woo!
Welcome to Private Club Radio, your weekly source for industry education, news and discussion. Broadcasting from Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Gabriel Aloisi.
Yeah, so that was me warming my voice up before the show. I was kind of under the weather that day, and I was trying to get my voice warmed up, and I was like, well, that's what singers do. Let me try this out. And I forgot to edit it out of the show and actually posted it live. So it's always good to laugh at yourself a little bit. So that was the biggest blooper, and I am now an award-winning podcaster because of it. So how about that? All right, on to something a little bit more serious. So this is actually your last week to pre-order the definitive guide to membership marketing. I just got my forwards back from Rick Coyne and another one, which I'm going to hold off because I want it to be a surprise. But I also want to let you know that if you would like to make a donation to the PCMA, the Professional Club Marketing Association Scholarship Fund, if you pre-order the book, use the code PCMA, you'll get $10 off the cover price, and I will also donate another $10 to the scholarship fund. So just want to let you know that I'm doing that. You've got 1 week to do that. Just go to membershipmarketingbook.com, fill out the form, and get your copy and some other goodies, including the audiobook and the 7 elements of highly effective ads. I'm giving that book away for free as well with your pre-order. So membershipmarketingbook.com, get your copy. You've got 1 week to do it. Let's bring on Henry Wallmeyer.
And now it's time for Club Perspectives, presented by the National Club Association.
Welcome to another edition of Club Perspectives presented by the National Club Association. Today I'm joined by President and CEO of the National Club Association, Henry Wallmeyer. Henry, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Gabe. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited for your conference coming up May 22nd through 24th, the National Club Conference. Can you give us a little insight into what's going to be happening?
Sure, absolutely. And thanks for having me on. And we're very excited about the National Club Conference as well. Like you said, it's going to be May 22nd through the 24th in New York. Our main facility is going to be the New York Athletic Club, which is a wonderful facility. And then we're also going to have events at the University Club for a opening night reception, and well as a closing dinner at the Friars Club in New York. So it's a little different type of facility going to the Friars Club, and we're looking for some fun and interesting activities that are going to take place there. We do have some entertainment planned to come in, but I think for just people to be able to experience, these types of clubs like the University and the New York Athletic Club, but then also to go outside a little bit and step into the Friars Club, which just has so much history. And is just so unique in its own way, and to be able to experience that is going to be worth the trip alone, even if they didn't attend all the education.
That sounds like such a treat. Yeah. You guys better save me a seat in that dinner. I demand to be there. Demand it.
Absolutely. We certainly will.
Now, you've got some pretty exciting speakers as well this year. Can you tell us a little bit about the education sessions and how you went about picking some of the speakers that you guys will be featuring?
Sure, absolutely. One of the things that we did was listen to our attendees from last year's National Club Conference, where we were in Chicago. And being in an association, it's one of the things you learn is to always listen to the members and to the attendees, because that's one that you want to get to come back and continue to attend and support the organization. And one of the things that we heard overwhelmingly was that they were looking for speakers who were not necessarily in the club industry, who had a connection to the private club industry, but who were very successful and leaders in their own industries. And this came through where our two highest rated speakers in our Chicago event were Rick Waddell, the CEO of Northern Trust and a past president of the Chicago Club, as well as Congressman Roskamp, who was a congressman from Illinois, who spoke. And so that told us that the attendees want something other than what they might normally get at chapter meetings or some other things. And so we really try to identify people who are very successful, who are leaders in their own industries, but who also are connected to the private club industry, whether that's because they do business in the clubs or they have some type of membership at one or more clubs. And so just to give you a brief little rundown, one of our speakers is going to be Eric Trump, who is the Executive Vice President of Development and Acquisitions at the Trump Organization. And obviously, they've done a lot in terms of what their acquisitions have been over the last, 12, 15 years and what they're continually doing. And then there's the added input that he is obviously the son of the president. But then we've also got other well-known speakers such as George Bodenheimer, who's a former president and executive chairman at ESPN. He started at ESPN about a year after the network started. And in 17 years, he worked his way up from the mailroom to become, president and executive chairman.
What a story.
And so, exactly. And he has written a book called Every Town is a Sports Town, and which chronicles, his rise through the ranks of ESPN and how they made their decisions on what they were going to do. A lot of those were successes. Some of the things that they didn't do were failures, and he talks about what they learned from those and how you move on. And it's just a very great story because a lot of us, I think, grew up with ESPN and understand it, can really relate to how they grew as an organization. And so he's going to be telling some stories about some of the personalities that he's worked with and some of the challenges that they had. And everybody will get a signed copy of his book who does attend. So
Very
that's
nice.
another little added benefit.
Yeah,
yes.
I love that.
Excited about that. We also have Marvin Scott, who is a TV news anchor up in New York City. He's also a member of the Friars Club. And so what he's going to be doing at our lunch on Tuesday is to really give us a history and a perspective of the Friars Club so that when we go there for dinner that night, everybody's going to really be able to appreciate it, I think, just a little bit more. And so we're
Are they roasting you, Henry? Are they going to be roasting you?
That was what we were trying to figure out. Can there be somebody that we roast? And when my name kept popping up, I said, no, we're not going to roast anybody, because I didn't want to put myself up to that.
That's funny.
That's for sure. I get enough of that at home with my wife and my children. I don't need it at work too.
Right.
And then we've got a couple other very unique individuals. One is Bob Litwin, who is currently a Wall Street performance coach. He's a coach for a lot of hedge fund managers on Wall Street. But Bob's background was a club tennis pro at two different private clubs in Connecticut.
Wow.
And he realized that he was given more than just tennis lessons. He was given a lot of life lessons, and people were asking him to walk the course when they were playing golf, because they just wanted, again, more his life lessons, and not necessarily instructions about a sport, but hey, what can I do to better myself? And so he's going to be speaking and really be able to bring the perspective of I know what it's like to be a general manager. I used to work at clubs, but now here's what you can do to really tell that best story of your life and how to make your life, your career as successful as possible. So I'm very excited to have him.
Yeah.
And we also have Reese Jones, a very famous golf course architect known as the Open Doctor, who's going to be talking about the Longleaf tee system, which is an innovative way for clubs to get people involved in golf, because it's putting multiple tee boxes on every hole, somewhere up to 7, 8, or 9, and people can play the tee box that corresponds to their ability. So it's a way for beginners, whether it's a child or someone middle-aged or older who's just starting to learn how to play golf, whether it's somebody who's older who may not be able to hit it as far, they can choose the right tee box for them. But it's just a very unique and interesting way that a club can say to its members, hey, here's a way you might be able to get more engaged in golf because we're providing more options for you.
It's also nice just the fact of playing the course in a different setup. Like I played a red tee tournament at my club over the weekend, and that was just fun just to play, hit different clubs and just play it in a different way. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, once somebody progresses, then they can move back, or they can always look at playing from a different perspective. Yep. As they're getting better, or potentially may not be as strong. And so it does allow for that as well. So we think that's a great opportunity, like I said again, for these members to be more engaged with their club, provide them with better and more alternatives.
Very nice. And in addition to the speakers, being in New York City, you're going to have some pretty cool social activities, I've heard. Can you give us a little insight on what's going to be happening on the social sphere over there?
Yeah, absolutely. On Monday the 22nd, we've got two very different but very wonderful and unique events. We've got our second annual National Club Conference Golf Classic, which is going to be at Manhattan Woods Golf Club, which is only about a half hour outside of the city. So there are opportunities where you'll have views of the skyline when you're up on some of their tee boxes. But it's a Gary Player design course, beautiful opportunity to get out there and play golf and interact with fellow club managers. But then also there's a special presentation by Mike Stachura, who is a senior editor of equipment at Golf Digest. He's going to be playing in the event, but then afterwards during the lunch, he's going to be talking about the state of golf, specifically the state of equipment, what's happening, and then also taking any questions from anybody, who's there about whether it be golf or equipment or just anything. So we're very excited to have him on board. And then also for people who are not interested in playing golf or might want to do something a little different, we have arranged for a tour of the 9/11 Memorial Site in New York City. Wow. And I have not been to it, but everybody that I have talked to has said it's just an absolutely remarkable, wonderful place. And when you go, it's just really brings you back to 9/11 and gives you that appreciation and understanding of everything that happened, that day and then after. And so we're very excited to be able to offer that. So they both happen simultaneously, so you can't do both of them. But we think one of those two things would probably fit everybody's interest, and then we'll all come back that evening to start with our cocktail reception at the University Club.
Wow, that sounds like a blast, and I'm super excited to be there. I'll be there, of course, with Private Club Radio, doing some live interviews right from the show. So I'm going to have a lot of fun Really looking forward to it. How are registrations looking right now, Henry?
We are looking very well. I think we're about 75 or 80 registrations right now. We're aiming for 150 attendees at our conference. That is the number that we are limited to at the Friars Club for the dinner.
Yep.
So we think that we're going to get there and probably have even extras. So we'll have to figure out how we can work all that out. But we're very good. We're about 2 months ahead of pace of where we were for last year's. And I think one of the things that we're seeing this year compared to previous years is that there are a lot more officers from clubs who are signing up, presidents and vice presidents. General managers are bringing them because I think the speaker lineup that we have, these individuals who are successful in their own industries and who are leaders, I think that is resonating with the board presidents, and so they want to participate in this conference as well. And so that's going very well. And then of course we also have our regular education sessions, which are going to be some great topics covered. Especially we're going to talk about government relations. What's going to be happening over the next year with the new administration and what NCA is going to be doing. Cybersecurity, member safety, and event security. What can you do at your club to make sure you're protecting yourself and your members? Also, going to talk a lot about fact-based management and governance. What should a board be doing to make their proper decisions, and how can they base that on actual facts and data that the club has, as opposed to anecdotes that they might be hearing from a member. And then also we'll have a session from the USGA about water and conservation and water usage and what's happening, because we know that is a very big topic all across the country right now. So I think we've got a great mix of what we call our keynote or featured speakers, as well as education sessions that pertain to club managers and board presidents and board officers alike.
Yeah, I love that you guys run the gamut when it comes to subject matter, and it's really a really nice, diverse lineup that you guys put on. So I'm really looking forward to it. And it sounds like folks don't have a lot of time if they want to be included in it. How do they actually sign up and register? Because it looks like tickets are selling fast to this thing.
They are. A couple ways. Best way to do it is go to our website at nationalclub.org, and right there on the homepage is a button for the National Club Conference. Click on that, and it has all the information with the schedule and the accommodations and everything else, and where they're able to register. Or they can give us a call at 202-822-9822, and we can go ahead and get them registered or send them out a form to have them registered. But I do think that we will probably sell out. At least we'll have to cap it for the Friars Club dinner, but we can have more than that at the education sessions and for the keynote speakers. But I would encourage people to go ahead and don't hesitate. They want to make sure they get a seat to that Friars Club dinner.
Yep, that's going to be something really special. Henry, thanks so much for coming on and telling us a little bit about the National Club Conference. Can't wait to see you up there in New York.
That sounds great, Gabe. Thanks so much for having me, and looking forward to seeing you in New York as well. All the best.
To learn more about the National Club Association, please visit nationalclub.org.
Next up, we are going to bring on a visionary and a luminary when it comes to membership marketing. He's a guy that I enjoy having on this show. He was back on episode number 1, our first ever guest. It's great to have him back on. He is the founder of the PCMA, founder of Clubmark. He's been doing membership for 46 years. That's Rick Coyne. Rick, how are you today?
I couldn't be better, Gabe. Glad to be on the phone with you and talking to the folks out there in our wonderful industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to just cut to the chase and ask you a very pointed question here. Rick, you've worked with clubs all over the country, all over the world, really. What is the one thing that you've seen happening in our industry that just scares the hell out of you?
That's a pretty easy one. I just say discounting. Clubs have traditionally not been in a position to have to market. In the early days of freestanding clubs, there were waiting lists to get in. Of course, the 80s, 90s brought an onslaught of additional new clubs and new opportunities for golf, which diminished what those private clubs of yesteryear were, requiring today that clubs have some clear understanding of what a marketing process is. And that the necessity for that marketing process has never been more apparent when you see clubs taking as a first line of offense or defense discounting their initiation fees, in many cases down to zero,
Mm-hmm.
which is an unrecoverable process of lost capital.
Yeah, why is it so dangerous? What's the drawback of just saying, hey, we're going to offer a program for 3 months or 6 months and see what happens?
Once you lower the initiation fee, Gabe, you're creating a market condition. And that market condition is both to your existing member community and it's to the prospective member community within your drive time radius. What happens is for an existing member who has been out there referring members to their club at X amount of dollars now has egg on their face when they go back and see the club discounting by 50%. That person who joined at full is looking at the person who asked them to join and saying, hey, what's this all about?
Mm-hmm.
And in the community, what you do is to set up a condition, because you'll find these discount programs occurring in the beginning of the season. So in many cases in the Midwest, or even to some degree in the South, what we find is Masters time is generally when most clubs are anxious to get their marketing programs out there. So the community then waits and says, okay, what's the new deal this year?
Right.
And in many cases, if it isn't strong enough, or maybe it doesn't beat last year's deal, they'll put off joining.
Mm-hmm.
And the key here is that there's no value in that process. We joined clubs in the early days because there was something about that club that was enticing to me. It was something that was significant maybe to my lifestyle, or it was relevant to what my family wanted to do. We've lost a little bit of sight as to what it takes to be a value to our customers, to our members, and to drive additional people into the club, because the club offers the kinds of things that make sense to those people.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the price is. If you're not offering something that somebody wants, you're just not coming.
Right. Yeah. Very well said. Very well said. Well, let's talk about offering the right types of stuff. I know you're a big proponent on doing research and your due diligence up front. Can we talk a little bit about that, Rick, and how you help clubs do that?
How long's this show? I can tell you
as long as you want, my man.
What I can tell you is this: less than 20% of clubs today do any kind of market research. And that's a big wow.
Yeah.
You're setting prices. You're trying to drive a new market into your front door and keep the ones that you have. And yet you really don't know who's out there, who can afford what you're selling, what those people's wants and needs are. And so everything that you're doing presently inside of your club is sending a brand message to those that are outside of the club. And if it isn't something, again, that's relevant, those people aren't going to be interested. Mm-hmm. So let's take, for example, a freestanding club, Gabe. What's the market radius for that club? Well, traditionally, we've looked in a 15-minute drive time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less, depending upon the nature of the community, the availability of arterial roads and ways to get in and out, and in some cases, natural barriers. But let's say it was 15 minutes drive time. You'd want to know what the population of that drive time radius was. You'd like to know how many people make enough money at what threshold to be able to afford the memberships that you're selling.
Right.
You'd like to find out when these people meet their peak potential of earning, which is generally about age 55. And so this opens up all sorts of possibilities for a club as it looks at a tier-stepped junior program. So most clubs today, the age of majority, or the age in which you need to upgrade your membership to full, is 35. Mm-hmm. Now, I would submit to almost every market in the United States, taking that number up to age 45 will dramatically increase your opportunity to grab that younger generation coming in. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things you need to understand in doing that, there's an impact. You wouldn't want to take it 10 years all at once, because you'll have a whole lot of members in that 35 to 45-year-old age range. You have to do an impact analysis. Mm-hmm. But the other thing, it also needs to be a tier-step process. How would we know this unless we understood our market? That's the number one thing. You want to also look at the kind of historical trends that you're club is performing within. Are your food and beverage cover counts going up, or are they going down? Are your gross revenues going up or down? Are your rounds of golf going up or down? Are the reservations for tennis going up or down? You really need to understand that trend information, because it's going to give you some insights as to where your attrition is likely to be heading. So if you're seeing dramatic decreases in these areas, you'd probably have to start looking at an additional amount of attrition sometimes in a not too distant future. You want to look at your age segmentation. Almost every club I've ever been to could tell me, what their average age is, but in the scheme of things, that really is a worthless number. What I want to do is look like the U.S. Census looks at this and say, how many do you have over 75? How many do you have over 85? That represents a very significant number relative to future attrition. We run 6 to 8% on a national average on an annual basis. But when you have a considerable number of your members over those age thresholds, you're going to see additional attrition. So it's a planning tool.
Yep.
On the reverse of that, you also want to see, are you filling the pipeline of younger members? And does your demographic by age match the demographic that's within the 15-minute drive time? And what we generally find out is that we have a far larger younger population in most of our clubs' market areas, but because the clubs don't identify ways in which they can attract those people, both from a event and programming standpoint, but also a way to ease them into full membership, they're not taking advantage of it. So there's, again, we want to look at the incoming demographic of members. I think the average in most freestanding urban clubs is under age 55 with children living at home. Well, that's a pretty interesting number. When you want to set that up to be where your growth is coming from, you need to find out what those people are looking for. Why are they joining? What's the most important thing for them when they made that decision to pull the trigger and write the check for the initiation fee to start paying monthly dues? If you find that out and you do more of it within the club, you're going to become more attractive. So to me, if a club has not done its proper due diligence on its market, its trending, its age profiling, it's kind of like driving down a country road at 70 miles an hour at night with your lights off. You're going to crash sooner or later.
That's scary. It's really scary. Now, what do you say to a club that says, well, we conducted one of these surveys 10 years ago and, we're pretty well aware of what our marketplace wants? What would you say to the club like that?
Well, if you said that you'd done it 10 years ago, I'd say you've lost between 60 and 80% of the people who took that survey. And in many cases, for clubs that are losing 10%, it's almost 100% turnover. We have such generational influence today. Not understanding what makes these generations tick is also a mistake. I think your internal attractiveness to retain members, your external attractiveness to provide some sort of significant relevance to that young family that wants to join, is dependent upon how well we understand what these people want. And again, in surveys, if you're doing member surveys, one of the two key questions that should be asked in every survey is, on a scale of 1 to 5, please rank the following in their importance for you making a decision to join XYZ Club. And the second question would be the same sort of question, but please rate the following in their significance to you retaining your membership at the XYZ Club. And I'm telling you, once you understand that, and you can look at that by demographically qualified responders, i.e. families with children under 12 or those that are under age 55, and you begin to identify what it is that they said was most important to them, that's a roadmap to strategy if there ever was one.
Yeah. Now, I'd be interested to hear from you, who's seen a lot of this data come back and you conducted a lot of these surveys. What are some of the trends that you're spotting, Rick?
Well, I don't know that there's so much in terms of trends that are coming in, Gabe, as so much as I'm seeing the younger people today wanting more of that family. Um, from a gender perspective, it's not about accumulation; it's about lifestyle experience.
Mm-hmm.
Lifestyle experience translates into family kinds of events, the precious amount of leisure time today that is available to almost everyone in this country, including senior citizens, uh, puts what we do and what we make available to our members within the club is one of the most important elements of why they join and why they stay. Um, we've done a recent video spoofing the ways you can make a bad first impression,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of clubs still today harbor areas where the kids can't go into, which is in some cases certainly understandable, but it's much more of an inclusive society out there today relative to family and the linear family from grandparents to parents to kids to grandkids. So you're seeing all of those elements within our clubs today, along with 4 to 5 different generations. So when you combine that and say, okay, on top of the overbuilding, this may be the most challenging period of time in the private club history because we have so many different variables we have to deal with and deal with them very effectively.
Now, you mentioned earlier that only 20% of clubs out there actually do any due diligence. Why do you think that's the case? Why is there such little due diligence happening in our industry?
Oh, I can give you several personal experiences where somebody on the board or somebody on the membership committee, this is not about bashing committee members. I think that the greatest brain trust that a club has, unfortunately, can also be the biggest pain in the rear if they're not properly organized. And so when you have people that have marketing experience, they've taken the market experience that they may have had in craft foods and try to overlay that into the private club industry. It doesn't work. There is a psychology on what happens in a club sale, and it's really about a lifestyle kind of decision rather than a decision we might make on an automobile or a refrigerator or anything
Right.
of a commodity type nature. And so I think what happens in clubs today is that they get mired in opinions, often kind of relegating the process to pretty much a standstill. When they get to that point and they continue to lose members, they fall victim or prey to the companies out there that will come in and just simply throw a program at you, the same program that they've used at the club down the street for decades, and generally involving discounting. And again, as we talked about it earlier in the show, that's a hard road to come back from.
Yeah.
So it's, to me, incumbent on every club that you do the due diligence, you understand your marketplace, you understand that this is a lifestyle decision, and that means your club. You can't, in other words, Gabe, you can't go out tomorrow and say, okay, we're going to be the XYZ club. That's a transitional process.
Right.
You don't become the XYZ club overnight. You've become who you are by what you've done over the past many years. If you want to change that, you really need to start looking at who you're trying to attract, what's the target market, what are their wants and needs, do more and better of those things. Bring people in at the beginning of the season to see the club functioning on all cylinders. Let them see it as to their lifestyle relevance, and you'll get as much or more from that process than you will from discounting.
Well said, Rick. Now, I am going to let the cat out of the bag here. I haven't made this announcement on the show, but you and I have joined forces. We've rolled out a new initiative called Club Mark Partners together alongside a couple of the real industry leaders. Can you let folks know what Club Mark Partners is all about and how we're helping the industry?
It's really exciting. We, of course, have over the years, Club Mark, been engaged in marketing efforts for clubs really all over the world, over 1,000 of them that we've worked with in the last, since 1983. And it's looking around day over day and traveling around and seeing clubs that are sitting out there saying, what do we do? What do we do? It's about reinvention. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things I was so excited about in bringing this together, particularly with you, Gabe, with your background in marketing and the wonderful book that you just are just getting ready to release, was that you get it. Our other partners get it, and the industry is very definitely in need of reinvention. Mm-hmm. That doesn't need to necessarily sound radical. What that needs to sound is this. Not a single club out there today is doing everything they should to tap into 100% of their market. If you want to broaden your market share, you really need to find out who's out in that market, what is it they want, and then do a better job of creating the environment to give it to them on the inside. Mm-hmm. And I think what ClubMark Partners is doing is getting out there and developing strategies for clubs that isn't just marketing. It's about how you're sending your new brand message not only to your existing member community, but to that next generation of members as well. And I think it goes also in that kind of philosophy that it's also about taking every single department within the club and ensuring that it's firing on the same principles of what does the woman want, what does the family want, what does the older member want, what do the children want. We've got to get everybody on the same page philosophically so that everything that club is doing is reaching to that next level of market that you must have in order to retain your sustainability.
That's right. That's right. And in addition to helping clubs with their membership and marketing, we've also brought on some partners that will be helping with some other aspects of private clubs. Can you let folks know what some of those other offerings will be?
Absolutely. It boils down to, in many cases, when you're doing a reinvention, you have to look at yourself operationally. What's the outside world see us as? When you're making changes within the club, and we're not necessarily suggesting that we would go in and make any wholesale capital projects. We are talking about philosophically getting aligned with your marketplace as you're making these changes, and or if you were looking for capital improvements, there has to be a good financial overview. For example, if we wanted to go and take the age of majority from 35 to 45, what are the financial ramifications? We have the capabilities within ClubMark Partners to do the complete strategic planning. We can do the complete financial planning. We can do the complete operational overview. And of course, then we can help in getting your branding and marketing plans out there to not only to the existing members, but to the public at large.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we have our new website. It's clubmarkpartners.com. Invite people to check that website out, learn a little bit about what we're doing and who the partners are. Of course, learn more about Rick. Rick, thanks so much for joining us today on Private Club Radio. How do folks get in touch with you directly?
Well, the easiest way is my open line to my cell. It's 214-679-8496, or they can reach me at Coyne, RCOYNE, at ClubMark, CLUBMARK.com.
Rick, you are a brave man to give out your cell phone number. I don't think I could do that.
Well, it may be that I have to flip it off every once in a while.
Yeah, right.
That would be a nice problem to have, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing I want to ask you about before I let you go here is the upcoming conference in Nashville. Can you let us know about what the PCMA has in store?
Oh, well, first of all, Nashville, I mean, what can you say? It's an amazing venue. Every time we've been there, we've had rave reviews, but it's not just about the venue. As a matter of fact, the venue is the least quality of the our process. I think the education has continued to get better and better every year. This year's lineup of speakers, and I can't divulge at this point in time. It will be over the top. Of course, Greg Patterson has been our traditional MC. He'll be back. There's nobody more thoughtful between speakers that can take the subject matter and translate it into takeaways for the attendees. And
awesome. Yep.
We expect over 300 folks this year, and a lot of things that we have learned in the accumulation of 21 years of doing this will be apparent when our members and guests arrive at this year's conference, September 25th and 26th.
I can't wait to see you there. That'll be a great time.
Yeah, I know that we're all excited about it. It's been shaping up. We started earlier this year in getting the educational lineup. We've got a bunch of fun trailers that we're sending out that are advertising and giving some kind of sneak previews of what's going to be there. But it's one not to be missed. And the thing too, Gabe, that is encouraging. We see so many GMs coming to this event because it is so focused in on the things that matter so much to private clubs today, and that's marketing, sales, branding, perception, pricing. All of that are the kinds of things that we deal with for 2 solid days, and on the fringe side we have continuing education programs on Saturday and Sunday as well.
Yep, it's going to be a fantastic time. Definitely invite people to check it out. The website for the PCMA is askpcma.org. You can register and sign up for the conference. Rick, thanks so much, man, for being on today's show.
You bet. I'll always look forward to it, Gabe.
Oh, I love having Rick on the show. And he is quick on his feet. He had no idea that first question I asked him was coming, and he did really well with that one. So enjoyed that one. Hope you did too. I hope I see you back here next week. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, why not? If you're a listener of this show, just go to Facebook, type in Private Club Radio Listeners Forum. Private Club Radio probably is enough, and we'll come right up and join in, having a little discussion over there and learn something new. Be good to have you. Until next week, here's to your membership success.
Private Club Radio is brought to you by the Private Club Agency, the premier marketing and consulting firm dedicated to helping clubs increase and retain their membership. Visit privateclubagency.com to learn more.